Right now, 1 in 4 iPhones in the world is being made in India. Not in China, not in Vietnam, in India. 5 years ago, that number was close to 0. Something extraordinary is happening in India's factories, and most of the world has not noticed yet. This is the full story of how India is becoming the world's next manufacturing superpower. To understand why Apple, Samsung, and dozens of global companies are moving to India, you first need to understand why they are leaving China. For 30 years, China was the world's undisputed factory floor. Cheap labor, massive scale, world-class logistics, and a government willing to do whatever it took to attract investment. But 3 things changed everything. First, US-China trade tensions and tariffs made Chinese manufacturing dramatically more expensive for companies selling into the American market. Second, COVID exposed the catastrophic risk of concentrating global supply chains in one country. When Chinese factories shut, the world ran out of everything.
Third, the geopolitical risk of having your most critical manufacturing inside a country that increasingly looks like a strategic adversary became impossible to ignore. Apple, Samsung, Tesla, and dozens of others began a search for alternatives. They needed a country with scale, massive enough to handle hundreds of millions of units. They needed democratic stability, a government that would not seize assets or close borders overnight. They needed English language capability and a technology workforce. The list of candidates that met all 3 criteria was very short. India was at the top of it.
Apple's shift to India is the most visible signal of the manufacturing revolution. In 2024, Apple assembled 36 million iPhones in India. In 2025, that number jumped to 55 million, a 53% increase in a single year. India now accounts for approximately 25% of Apple's total global iPhone production. Apple's target is to manufacture 32% of its global iPhone volume and 26% of its production value in India by FY 2026-27. Representing an estimated production value of over $34 billion. Apple now assembles all versions of its iPhone in India, not just older models, but its most current flagship devices. The companies assembling iPhones in India are Foxconn, Pegatron, and Tata Group. Tata Group, India's largest conglomerate, acquired the former Wistron iPhone plant in 2023 and entered Apple's global supplier ecosystem. This is historically significant. A major Indian company is now inside the supply chain of the world's most valuable company. The shift was directly driven by US-China tariff pressures and the need to avoid concentration risk in China. Bloomberg's reporting explicitly links Apple's India ramp-up to efforts to avoid Chinese tariffs and reduce geopolitical dependency on a single country.
Samsung's bet on India is equally dramatic. Samsung's Noida plant in Uttar Pradesh is the world's largest mobile phone factory, with capacity to produce up to 120 million mobile phones per year. The factory sits on 129,000 square meters and was built on a site that was doubled in scale to meet Samsung's global ambitions. Samsung explicitly positions India as both a massive domestic market and an export hub for mobile handsets, what it calls a mirror hub alongside its Vietnam operations. The world's largest phone factory is not in Shenzhen, Guangzhou, or Seoul. It is in Noida, India.
The engine behind this manufacturing revolution is India's Production-Linked Incentive Scheme. The PLI program, launched across 14 sectors, has a total government outlay of 1.77 lakh crore rupees. As of March 2025, PLI schemes had attracted investment of 1.76 lakh crore rupees,
and generated incremental production and sales worth over 16.5 lakh crore rupees. More than 12 lakh direct and indirect jobs have been created. For mobile manufacturing specifically, the PLI drove production from 2.13 lakh crore rupees in 2020-21 to 5.25 lakh crore rupees in 2024-25, a 146% increase. But the most shocking number is this: mobile exports surged 775% from 22,870 crore rupees to 2 lakh crore rupees in the same period.
By fiscal year 2025-26, India's electronics exports reached approximately $48 billion, the highest ever, and growing at 20.3% annually, the fastest growth rate of any major export sector. Electronics had the highest export growth rate of any major sector in India in 2025-26. Smartphones became India's top exported commodity in calendar year 2025, with export value of 2,624,452 crore rupees. Let that land. The phone in your hand is now more likely than ever to say "Made in India" on the back. Mobile phone exports went from 1,500 crore rupees to 2 lakh crore rupees in 1 decade. That is a 130-fold increase. India went from a country that barely exported electronics to the country where smartphones are now its single largest export item.
So why did India win the China +1 competition over Vietnam, Mexico, Indonesia, and every other alternative? Scale. India has 1.4 billion people and the world's largest youth workforce. No other alternative can absorb the volume that global companies need to shift from China. Democratic stability. India has never nationalized foreign assets, closed borders arbitrarily, or weaponized supply chains against trading partners. Technology workforce. India produces 1.5 million engineering graduates per year, more than the United States and China combined. English language capability. Every manager, engineer, and executive in the global supply chain can communicate without a translator. And a government that finally built the policy infrastructure, the PLI scheme, to compete on manufacturing terms with China.
But this is a documentary, not a marketing campaign. And the honest picture has a challenge that India must acknowledge. India's electronics imports in FY 2025-26 reached $116 billion. Its exports were $48 billion. India's electronics imports are still 2.4 times its exports. India is assembling iPhones, but most of the components inside that iPhone, the chips, the displays, the camera modules, are still coming from China, Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. India's domestic value addition in electronics is only 18 to 20% right now. The government target is to raise this to 75 to 80%. Assembly is a start, but the real prize and the real challenge is building the component ecosystem that makes India not just a factory, but a complete manufacturing nation.
India needs 3 things to complete this revolution. First, a deep component ecosystem. India must attract and build manufacturers of the chips, displays, batteries, and precision components that go inside every device. The semiconductor mission and PLI for components are critical. Second, labor market reform. China's manufacturing dominance was partly built on labor flexibility that India still restricts. India must make it easier to hire, scale, and restructure without bureaucratic delays. Third, logistics cost reduction. Manufacturing competitiveness is destroyed by high logistics costs. India's ongoing investment in highways, ports, and railways must continue at the same pace for the next decade. India is on the right path, but it is a long path. China built its manufacturing dominance over 40 years. India is trying to compress that into 10.
In 2020, India's mobile phone exports were worth 1,500 crore rupees. In 2025, they were worth 262,452 crore rupees. In 2020, Apple made essentially no iPhones in India. In 2025, Apple made 1 in 4 iPhones here. In 2020, Samsung's Noida plant was a major facility. In 2025, it is the world's largest mobile phone factory. What India has done in 5 years is not a miracle. It is the result of deliberate policy, patient infrastructure investment, and a generation of engineers ready to build the world's devices. China built its manufacturing dominance over 40 years of relentless focus. India has compressed similar momentum into 5. The question is not whether India can become the world's factory. The question is how fast.